We're here today to announce the unsealing of a federal indictment charging former Allen County Sheriff Samuel Crish with several crimes, including bribery, extortion, and making false official statements. ASAC Winston will update you on Mr. Crish's status and an overview of this investigation that led to this indictment, and I will summarize the charges that have been filed against the former sheriff. As alleged in the indictment, Crish is charged with 2 counts of extortion, 3 counts of soliciting a bribe, and 1 count of making false official statements. These charges stem from Crish's efforts to shake down drug dealers, suspected gamblers, people arrested in prostitution stings, and even someone who wanted a county job. In all, Crish is accused of soliciting and extorting nearly $100,000 between 2012 and 2016. The indictment goes person by person in detailing the extent of Crish's crimes. For instance, person 1 was a nurse whose adult child worked at the Allen County Sheriff's Office. In June of 2012, Crish asked person 1 for an $8,000 in-cash loan, which he falsely stated he needed to cover medical bills. Person 1 gave Crish the cash, and this was done in an alley behind the Allen County Sheriff's Office. 2 months later, Crish encouraged person 1 to apply for the job as a nurse at the Allen County Jail and left person 1 with the impression that the job was theirs. But before person 1 had the job, Crish told person 1 he needed $42,000 to pay off debts. Person 1 took out a home equity line of credit and gave Crish $42,000, again giving him the money in an alley behind the sheriff's office here in Lima. Crish promised to repay this money, and 12 days after person 1 gave Crish the money, Crish completed the paperwork, new hire paperwork for that person to become a nurse at the Allen County Jail. So Crish asked person 1 for funds at least 2 other times after person 1 became an employee at the Allen County Sheriff's Office, and that continued up to as late as 2016. Person 2 is also a person who's referenced in the indictment. Person 2 is a drug dealer who's now serving a 24-year sentence. But before that, person 2 was someone who reached out to Crish, including to ask Crish to keep sheriff's deputies away from a large party that person 2 was holding. In March of 2013, Crish asked person 2 for $25,000. Person 2 eventually gave Crish $20,000, which Crish promised to pay plus $5,000 in interest. Crish told person 2 that he intended to gamble with this money. A month later, Crish told person 2 about an undercover drug investigation and told person 2 that person 2 was, quote, going to get indicted. Crish told person 2 that Crish would take care of it if person 2 forgave half of that $20,000 debt. Later in 2002, Crish did inquire with the West Central Task Force to see if anyone had made any drug buys into person 2. Person 2 was eventually arrested, and Crish met with person 2's defense attorney, even appearing on a list of potential defense witnesses for person 2. Person 2, as I said, eventually pleaded guilty to drug crimes and was sentenced to 24 years in prison. The indictment also makes reference to person 3. Person 3 lived in Allen County and owned a used car business. Crish arrested person 3 in August of 2015 as part of a prostitution sting. After the arrest, Crish visited the used car business several times and eventually asked person 3 for a $7,000 loan. On September 25th, 2015, person 3 gave Crish a check for $7,000. This was about 5 weeks after person 3 had been arrested by Crish. And 2 months after receiving this check for $7,000, Crish met with Lima City prosecutors and demanded that charges against person 3 be dropped. And in February of 2016, solicitation charges against person 3 were in fact dismissed. Person 4 is also someone who's referenced in the indictment, also lived in Allen County and also operated a used car business. This one was in Elida. In September of 2015, Crish approached person 4 and asked him to work as an informant. Crish provided names of people involved in drug trafficking to person 4, and then Crish asked person 4 if he could borrow $10,000, which person 4 did in fact give to him. In November of 2015, person 4 was also arrested for solicitation along with other people during a sting operation at a motel in Lima. After the arrest, person 4 asked if he could talk to Crish. Crish told him not to worry. Twice more after the arrest, Crish asked person 4 for money, which he did receive, and in May of 2016, Crish told person 4 he was fine, referring to the pending charges for solicitation. Person 4 was actually never charged with solicitation. Finally, person 5 owned a grocery store in Allen County. In October of 2015, Crish asked person 5 for a loan. He also told person 5 he could stop an investigation into person 5 for running an illegal gambling operation. Person 5 gave Crish $2,000. A few months later, Crish asked person 5 for $6,000, which person 5 refused to give. Now, Crish joined the sheriff's office in 1991, held numerous positions there in the office, including commander of the investigative division and commander of the West Ohio Crime Task Force. He was elected sheriff in 2008, in 2012, and in 2016, ultimately resigning, as we all know, in January of 2017. It is important to note that Crish's behavior is in no way a reflection on the men and women of the Allen County Sheriff's Department or the men and women of law enforcement generally. Just last week, I was here in Lima to announce a major drug indictment investigated by the Allen County Sheriff's Office and the West Central Ohio Task Force. We have faith in these officers and we honor their service. But at the same time, as someone who has spent nearly 20 years working with police and sheriff's deputies, it is difficult for me to express my contempt for the behavior alleged in this indictment. Crish's actions were as offensive as they were audacious. To consort with and to shake down drug dealers that he knew were under investigation, to tip them off that they were going to be indicted, to ask for money from someone who'd been arrested in a prostitution sting, and then pushing for that person's charges to be dismissed. This is all conduct that demeans the hardworking men and women of law enforcement who have devoted their careers to doing the right thing under all the circumstances that are presented to them. And the actions detailed in this indictment, they are those of a crime boss, not of a sheriff. And Samuel Crish will now be held accountable for those actions. I'll now turn it over to Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Alvin Winston of the FBI.